Highly intelligent people aren't always the easiest to be around. Sometimes they're labeled as difficult. Sometimes as too perfectionistic or too blunt for other people's comfort. You may have started to see those traits as weaknesses, something you needed to tone down in order to fit in. But what often goes unspoken is this. Minds with higher cognitive ability tend to come with behavioral patterns that are easily misunderstood. The very traits that have drawn criticism may actually reflect a deeper, more complex way of processing the world. If you've ever felt slightly out of sync with the people around you, it may not mean there's something wrong with you. It may simply mean you're wired differently. If this perspective resonates, feel free to like and subscribe. It helps me continue creating conversations like this. Now, let's take a closer look at 9 traits that are often labeled negative and what they may really reveal about your intelligence. 1. Overthinking. You may have been told that you overthink, that you analyze things too much, that you make simple decisions harder than they need to be. On the surface, it can look like anxiety, or indecisiveness, or even a lack of confidence. But what often gets labeled as overthinking is actually cognitive simulation. Highly intelligent minds tend to run multiple scenarios before settling on an answer. Your brain doesn't just process what's in front of you. It projects forward. It anticipates consequences. It tests outcomes internally before acting externally. Psychologists sometimes describe this as a lower tolerance for cognitive closure. In other words, your mind resists shutting down a question too early. If there are more variables to consider, it keeps going. That isn't dysfunction. It's depth. A brain wired for complexity rarely feels comfortable with surface-level answers. 2. Being socially selective. You may not enjoy small talk. You may prefer a few deep friendships over a large social circle. You may leave crowded gatherings feeling mentally exhausted. Some people interpret that as being antisocial. But higher intelligence is often associated with a different stimulation threshold. Your brain craves meaningful input. It seeks novelty, insight, and layered conversation. Repetitive or shallow exchanges can feel understimulating rather than enjoyable. This isn't about disliking people. It's about energy allocation. When your cognitive system runs fast and processes deeply, constant low-level social noise can drain you. Depth, on the other hand, can feel energizing. So this isn't social weakness. It's selective engagement. Your nervous system simply prefers quality over quantity. 3. Questioning authority. You may struggle to accept rules without explanation. You ask, why? Sometimes more than once. To others, that can feel argumentative or rebellious. But cognitively, strong analytical reasoning activates evaluation systems in the prefrontal cortex. Instead of defaulting to hierarchy, your brain defaults to coherence. Authority alone does not automatically equal truth. Consistency does. This pattern reflects what psychologists call an internal locus of evaluation. You measure information against logic and evidence rather than titles or status. It's not disrespect. It's intellectual autonomy. A mind that verifies before it trusts. 4. Perfectionism. You may set standards that feel high to other people. You may notice small inconsistencies others overlook. You may feel unsettled when something is almost right, but not quite. Perfectionism often gets criticized as rigidity or self-criticism. But in many highly intelligent individuals, it reflects heightened error sensitivity. Your brain quickly detects gaps, flaws, or inefficiencies. When you see those details clearly, it's neurologically uncomfortable to ignore them. This doesn't always come from insecurity. It often comes from pattern integrity. If your mind is trained to spot deviation, settling for good enough can feel incomplete. That isn't about control. It's about precision. Your brain is tuned for refinement. 5. Impatience with inefficiency. You may feel frustrated when conversations drag on, when meetings repeat the same idea, when systems waste time. Others might call that impatience. But processing speed varies across individuals. When your brain synthesizes information quickly, prolonged redundancy can feel draining rather than helpful. You've already reached the conclusion. The room hasn't. This mismatch creates tension. It's not arrogance. It's acceleration. Your cognitive system moves quickly from data to pattern to outcome. When the external pace doesn't match your internal one, discomfort shows up. What looks like irritability is often a desire for efficiency, a brain calibrated for rapid synthesis. 6. Emotional intensity. You may react strongly to injustice. You may feel deeply about ideas, systems, or ethical concerns. You may experience emotions with noticeable intensity. Some people interpret that as being dramatic or overly sensitive. But intelligence is frequently linked with heightened sensitivity, both emotionally and cognitively. When your brain registers nuance, contradiction, and long-term consequences, your emotional response may reflect that expanded awareness. You're not reacting to one layer. You're reacting to 5. This intensity isn't instability. It's amplified perception. When you see more connections and implications, your emotional system responds accordingly. Depth of thought often brings depth of feeling. 7. Needing solitude. You may need long stretches of time alone, not because you dislike people, but because your mind rarely stops moving. Solitude allows integration. In quiet moments, the brain's default mode network becomes active, the system involved in reflection, synthesis, and meaning-making. For highly intelligent individuals, then internal processing is constant. It needs space. Alone time isn't withdrawal. It's cognitive restoration. It's how your brain organizes complex information, how it connects ideas across domains, how it recalibrates. Solitude for you isn't emptiness. It's mental maintenance. 8. Skepticism. You may hesitate before believing something optimistic. You may question promises. You may anticipate risk before others see it. That can be labeled as negativity. But skepticism is not the same as cynicism. Cynicism assumes bad outcomes are inevitable. Skepticism evaluates probability. Highly intelligent minds tend to excel at pattern recognition. Your brain stores inconsistencies and retrieves them quickly when similar situations arise. This creates careful judgment. It doesn't eliminate hope. It simply filters it through evidence. What appears as doubt may actually be mature evaluation, a mind trained to test reality before committing belief. 9. Feeling out of sync. You may sometimes feel slightly out of place, like your thoughts move differently, like you see connections others don't. That feeling can be isolating. But divergent thinking, the ability to generate unconventional associations, is strongly linked to intelligence. Your brain forms cross-domain links quickly. It operates non-linearly. While others move step by step, you may move in webs. This difference can create social friction, but it can also produce originality. What feels like misalignment may simply be cognitive divergence, not broken alignment, just a different map. Highly intelligent minds do not always move in straight lines. They move in networks, and many traits that get labeled as negative are simply complexity misunderstood. Maybe the problem was never that you were too much. Maybe those so-called negative traits were signs of depth, precision, and a mind that sees more than it's given credit for. What looked like difficulty may have been discernment. What felt like intensity may have been awareness. You're not broken. You're operating on a different setting. And if that difference has shaped how you move through the world, especially if you grew up without much recognition for it, the next conversation may feel even closer to home. Gen X was never applauded, and that changed everything. If this resonated, stay with me.